Remember I used to give you lessons too? Go on, let me hear you play something. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and...
So please welcome Joan to the stage.
So I hope you're all feeling relaxed and not stressed. I will keep this short in the time frame, and I'm going to make it a little bit interactive. Do we all know what stress is? The definition of stress? It's an adverse reaction to too much work pressure, basically, is how it's described. It's not an illness. I mean, PTSD is an illness, post-traumatic stress disorder, but stress itself is not deemed to be an illness, but it does cause a lot of other problems that increase ill health. So what I want to do is to pick up the threads and to try and weave everything together, because it seems to me that you can do all the resilience planning that you like, but if your people fall over, you've got problems. Now, how many of you are actually experiencing stress at work? I don't want to make this personal, but are you aware of people in your organisation who have gone off sick with stress-related ill health? Can we have a show of hands? My goodness. Is it something you're able to deal with? Have you got systems and processes in place?
Yeah.
So some of you have. So if you haven't, you need to seek out these people who have got tactics already in place. Do you know how many days are lost in the UK, or were lost the last couple of years over stress? 15.4 million in 2017-18. And the estimated cost, 5.2 billion in the UK. So it really is staggering. Now, this data is off the Health and Safety Executive website, it has a whole section on stress, which I suggest you go and have a look at if you want to learn more. It is really very detailed, and they have done longitudinal studies on the impact of stress and everything. So what do you think are the main causes of stress, stressors that people really suffer from? Have you ever been tempted to take the approach of that famous chef, where he says, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the effing kitchen? The problem about stress is that it's very personal, and it depends on a lot of other things that are going on in your life, emotionally, family, work, whatever. And it's very easy for us, if we ourselves are quite competent and in control of everything, it's very easy for us to put that over onto other people and expect them to pull their socks up and just get on with it. And that's not terribly helpful, because especially if you don't really know your people, you don't really know what they're going through, and you don't know how they're reacting to the pressures that you're making on them. I did post something up on the group page on LinkedIn. Did anybody have a look at that? If you've got your phones, you want to have a look now? Because
how much you're all engaged.
I am interested.
Invited you 3 times.
So while you're opening up your Supper Club page on LinkedIn to have a look at the stress performance curve image, just to recap, stress is a feeling where you're not in control of the demands being made of you, and it's hindered by a lack of support, which might be from your manager or from those around you. It's also got to do with the relationships that you have to maybe just talk to ask for help, etc. And it's not helped at all by all the changes that people are going through, which often leads to a lack of clarity about roles. So all of those things together can make life very difficult. Can you see the image? So the point about the stress and performance curve is that you can start off not having enough pressure, so you're not actually performing very well, you're too laid back. And then the idea is to get people working up to optimum performance. But if you constantly put them under stress, so much pressure that they go into a phase of stress, then their performance actually goes down, and eventually they drop off a cliff. And it's actually very hard to get people back, because the average time off, I think, is 28 days but I'm sure you know people who really struggle to come back altogether. And of course, while they're off, what's happening in the office? Well, everybody else is more stressed because they're having to pick up on all their workload as well. So it's a little bit of a vicious circle. So I guess the question really is, how do you build the resilience of your people so that they can cope better and not fall off the curve, not get so stressed that they can't concentrate and do well? Have you been stressed yourselves? Did I ask you that?
You did with
Yeah, just to chicken out of it. But the thing is, were you told to not drink as much and go to the gym and go for walks? I mean, these things can help us individually, but actually they are looking at the symptoms, not the underlying causes. And again, they're also putting the onus on the individual to get better. And the approach that I'd like to put to you is, how can you be more strategic about helping people manage the pressure that you're putting them under? Well, one of the things you can do, which comes back to the resilience and the operational resilience piece, is to focus more on how to prevent stress from becoming an issue. And that is about being able to anticipate when maybe you have a huge change program coming through. So you might want to take a risk assessment approach to that, and then you can identify the potential of the risks, the specific risks that people are going to be put under in different roles. You can put mitigating actions in place to limit those. You can talk to line managers and train them up so that actually they realise that a lot of this is just about being a good manager. And that's the simple things like just checking in with people, making sure they're okay, maybe being a bit flexible if they need to get home and sort out a problem at home. Because if these are good workers, they'll really value that, and it might just release that pressure valve for them and enable them to come back refreshed with more energy to cope. So a lot of the ideas are around managing people better. And sadly, I do get a lot of feedback when I talk to people in organisations that they often say the managers are the weakest link. I mean, people can be the weakest link, but if the managers are not strong, then everything else is hard to get working. So another thing is, if you know that people are up near the top of the pressure curve, is there anything you can do to help them to step off that treadmill, albeit briefly? Can you redistribute work? Or can you actually take a smart approach where you say, there's so much change here, we have to think about what we should stop doing because it's not adding any value, or how we can work smarter. And then the other aspect to look at is how can you build people's skills so that they are more resilient? How do you help people to take on more and get better at what they do? And they say, I think, well, I read it a lot on LinkedIn anyway, that people look at an organisation now and look at the development path that they're being offered, and that's partly what they make decisions on when they choose an employer. So are you able to find, gosh, so I'll have to be quick. Are you able to find ways of building their capabilities on the job with training, with coaching, with mentoring, giving them more tricky projects, giving them more autonomy, giving them better feedback, not micromanaging them, but actually, if they come to you with a problem, don't give them your solution, ask them what they would do. And all those